Hello, everyone, and welcome back to another episode of Search, Deploy, Commit. This is your host, Jack, and I'm here with the one and only TR-8R. I don't know if you would say traitor, I'm assuming, correct? Is that how you would want it to be said?
Yes, please. My friends and
Please make
enemies call me traitor.
Yes, so community standard across Warzone, not only the games and the different genres of the game, but definitely very involved in the ongoing chat and just really excited to have you on the podcast. So thank you for being here.
Excellent. The pleasure is all mine. Thanks for having me on. I was
Absolutely.
surprised to get the invite after I've seen the heavy hitters and Fizzer on this podcast. So thank you once again.
Well, again, I think, I wanted to have you on here because, I want to have as many people on the podcast as possible, even just from everybody has a different perspective on the game. And everybody that I've talked to, whether they're, the biggest map maker in the game or, even a player that's just hosting a couple games, I think, you guys all have an interesting perspective. And I think even for yourself, you were previously known as a couple different things. I think your most recent one was Tywin Lannister, and then you switched to Traitor. And I know that I'm assuming there's a little bit of a story behind that as to why. So I'd love to hear, maybe what your story is. Obviously, as we go through the interview, but like I do with everybody, I really, really have to ask, do you remember your first game of Warzone, and how did you come across the game itself?
Sure thing. Yeah, I looked at my profile recently just to do a little bit of prep on this. Honestly, I don't remember my first game. Luckily, Warzone has a cool feature where you can go back through any of your past games, which I've always been impressed with.
Nice.
But yeah, I was in college when I first joined Warzone and played my first games. It was, like a lot of people that were searching for this back then. We were looking for just some good, just to play some Risk online, instead of having a
Yeah.
6 hour long session in real life where you might lose a friend or two. This was a good safe space.
Yeah. No, that's good. So, I mean, as far as, like you said, a lot of people have found this game in particular. What did you, I mean, back when you started, I mean, it wasn't, I don't even think it was probably officially Warzone. I think I saw your start time was like 2013.
Yeah, and honestly, I thought I started even earlier than that, but that's what the
Yeah.
profile says, so I'll go with it. But yeah,
Nice.
it was Warlight, which it was definitely a different game back then by
Hmm.
for a few aspects. Luck was default back then instead of it all being skill.
Hmm.
And it used to be able to cash out coins back then too for cash, but I guess Fizzer didn't like that.
Yeah, I suppose. So the game itself, you're saying though, you guys still had coins back then, but it was a different setup. And would you get them for winning games, or was it just based similar to what it is right now?
Yeah, as far as what I remember, this predates Clan Wars. This predates Idle.
Oh
Um,
wow, yep, of course,
but
idle.
yeah, it was basically just straight up betting. You'd basically put an entry fee in how many coins you wanted to offer up, and somebody joined. You basically go double or nothing minus the visitor tax, and there you
Wow,
go.
wow. That was that every single game was like that?
No, it's the coin sharks were few and far between. I was definitely a newbie back then, but I definitely enjoyed watching the sidelines. Some major coinage get passed around.
Wow, this is something I've never heard of, so that's pretty
Hmm.
interesting. How long ago would you say that was?
So my Warlight history here, I played very casually from 2013 to 2016, and then once the pandemic hit and seeing that Idle came around, but I guess when the pandemic started, it
Hmm.
got me back into this game as just something that I walked away from and was able to pick right back up, and I enjoyed it a lot. I think I th- I probably played around 1,000 games or the first few years I played, but like in the last 2 years, 2.5 years now, I think three-quarters of my games have been in that span.
Wow. Wow. So you really, since the pandemic, you've gotten into the game sort of like a second time. And would you say that was all competitively as a focus?
It's slowly but surely notched up higher and higher. I guess if we talk about my clan hopping later
Yeah.
on, I'll get more into that. But
Okay.
um, I would still consider myself somewhere between 10th percentile or 25th percentile of
Mm,
the players in this game. There's a lot of insanely good players here, and
yeah.
I think I'm just finally cracking into above noob level here. So it's it's a hard ladder to climb up.
Yeah, no, absolutely. There's a lot of really great talent, and even just to say that you're a part of the competitive community, I think means something. Because I wouldn't even consider myself able to even think about competing. I just started ladders myself, and that's been really interesting. And I feel like even just in a couple games, I'm learning a lot. But still a long ways to go. So I can see where that ramp up from 1,000 games to 3,000 or whatever.
Mhm.
That's a lot of experience that you're able to get under your belt. And I think I've spoken with you in Warzone chat and some of those other parts of the game. The Discord channel about some of your aspects and your knowledge just outside of even competitive and idle. And obviously, you played the game before all of this. You've played in a lot of different areas of Warzone. What would you say is your preferred, game mode that you really lately, at least, um, over time?
Yeah, sure. Well, I consider myself a jack of all trades, master of none. Most of my time these days, I've always been primarily a real-time player versus multi-day,
Okay.
but I've noticed that the level of competition is definitely much greater on the multi-day side. So
Mm,
I've definitely have gotten more involved into that the last couple of years. But as far as lately, I am probably in the minority of really enjoying the current Clan Wars dynamic, as well as how it goes hand in hand with rewarding idle players like myself.
gotcha. So you really like the aspect of clan wars and that when you do participate and the whole clan participates and, get some wins, that you're not only able to benefit the clan, but also you're able to get benefits from an idle perspective. You like the synergy of the game in that.
Yes, yeah. If your style of gameplay and availability coincides well with being able to play every day, Clan Wars is definitely a good option for that part of the fan base.
Yeah. And this is kind of just a side note. You mentioned how you sort of transition from real time to multi-day games. So instead of, taking your turns one after the other with like a 2-minute timer, you're doing, I'm assuming a 3-day or a 2-day maximum to take your turn. Would you say that some of those multi-day players that are on a higher level would maybe struggle in a 2-minute format, or would you say it translates pretty well either way?
It depends on the player, but um, getting to know more of the competitive community, there are quite a few that definitely like taking advantage of the full time of like of the real time games.
Sure.
And M Hunters, one of our specialties is in the Commander Bomb template. And that
Okay.
template, you basically have a few minutes, and
Mm-hmm.
we're semi notorious for using the full turn lengths, but that's not um, at least not as a clan. It's not for trolling purposes or stalling. There is a lot of calculations going into that.
Okay.
Yeah, I think even just doing the standard small Lareth auto distribution for a lot of the players in this clan, it feels more like a sprint, or they don't have enough time to think
Mm,
about plan A, B, and C to figure out what's the optimal strategy every time. So
I
I know that
gotcha.
didn't directly answer your question, but yeah, I would
No,
say
that's a good answer.
multi-day players um, definitely have a specialty in finding the optimal route. Kind of similar, I guess, that you would see to the top chess players. You would
Mm-hmm.
have a different set of players that would do a lot better with 10-second or 30-second turns versus all the time you need.
Sure. Right. So similar comparability in the way that people play chess or don't play chess, obviously, in the different
Hmm.
setups. Yeah, that's a good point. And obviously, with yourself, you're currently with M Hunters. Word is that you've been with a lot of clans, and this is just from hearsay and things of that nature. So tell me about your experiences with different clans and kind of your story and your background and how you got to have this name of Trader.
Sure thing. Well, it it,
We're
it
all
was a
ears.
self-given nickname, so I like to live up to it at times. But going back to it, when I got back into this game in 2020, when I saw Idle came up, I actually never knew about the global chat feature until playing Idle. Um, if you're on the main like hub on the website, like on a desktop version, the chat bubble doesn't even show up until you're in Idle or when you're in a multiplayer game. So when I saw that existed, as well as I'm not sure if lucrative is the right word, but it's definitely enough to keep a handful or a dozen of us players lurking into the global chat for the
Sure.
chance at raffle winnings. But that positive reinforcement of being in the chat, as well as the community aspect within the chat, got me connected and realizing like, whoa, this is more than just another disconnected online game. There's actually a good level of community. Before 2020, I just saw like the clans being kind of cliquish, having some
Mm,
communication within the clan, but I discovered all the different Discord levels and the public level on each individual clan level, and there's definitely a lot more to this game than what you see at the surface if you just play casually.
right.
Um, but to answer your question, I think roughly a year it was probably 2021. I don't remember what Clan Wars season we're in, but about 10 seasons ago, um, I was approached by the leader of the clan Excel, and basically what got me into Clan Wars was the rewards for idle players that was in it. So I saw
Mm,
Excel was a pretty good clan. I would get some pretty good idle rewards if I was in that clan. So um, we decided it was a good decision to let me in that clan, and I think I was in that clan for only 1 or 2 seasons, and then I tradered myself the first time and went to another clan, TLA. I'm sure you've seen quite a few players from that clan. They're
yes.
Yep. JK3 is always in the global chat, pretty frequent
Yep.
as well. I really enjoyed the community in TLA. They did some good within the clan, just tournaments, I think on a weekly basis, if not more, as well as just being able to offer pointers um, whenever there was an avoidable loss within clan wars or within those
Mm,
tournaments. So it was really cool to see I guess the mentor mentee mentality. And then I was in there for I think I want to say 5 seasons or so, but those were short clan war seasons. In that time, the seasons they were really quick. I want to say like 3 weeks each.
gotcha. Wow.
Yep. So after that, um, I'm I'm not sure how much you know about the clan war scene, but um, there's a player, a really good player known as Flexus, who started the Mythbusters clan, and what he did was unprecedented. When Clan Wars came out, Fizzer introduced a new cap to where you can no longer any clans created after January 2021 when Clan Wars came out, they were capped at 40 players, and um, in Clan Wars, only 40 players can play within a given season. So that gives a big advantage to the larger clans that you can
Mm,
basically rotate players in and out more easily if
I see.
people don't want to play every single season.
Sure.
So Flex has built up Mythbusters. I hopped over there. They won their inaugural full season. I hopped in there as a shameless coattail rider, and I joined in there with their clan rating being a lot higher. It was a higher level of competition I was constantly paired with, so I really struggled when I joined there the first season. But I got a lot of tips, a lot of training, and I definitely put in a lot of practice to get myself closer to the level that I'm at now. And then a couple seasons later, I traded over to my current clan, M Hunters, and that's where I am today. Definitely, it's been a good fit here. Really good community, a lot of good open communication and training mentality here.
That's great. Obviously, really a lot of good in-depth, insight on some of the things that have happened in Warzone that people maybe just wouldn't be aware of otherwise, unless they were a part of the clan wars scene or whatever the case is. And you talk about Flexus's unprecedented move to win his inaugural season. Did he start that clan after Fizzer's change, or was it before?
Yes, it was started much later. So looking right now, the first season that they won was in May of this year.
Okay.
So yeah, so that was several seasons after that. The clan cap was introduced.
Wow.
Um,
So what is the
I
cap
joined
for
it.
his
So
clan
yeah,
then? What is his what is his clan's cap at then, since it's not an original clan?
so every clan created after January 2021 is capped at 40 members max.
Okay,
There's a loophole that the leader can leave and come back, and you can get it to 41, but not too
I
many
see.
people
Do
make that
that, sure.
effort.
Yeah, yeah, that makes sense.
You'll
So
see
so
other
other
clans.
clans
I
would
think
have way
cats.
more players than 40,
Yeah,
but he was able to pull it off regardless.
exactly. He was able to recruit a lot of players. Not everybody respected the way he recruited because a lot of alt accounts or alternative accounts from other elite
Hmm.
clans were recruited heavily get into the myth to get to Mythbusters runs at first. But no, he kudos is due.
Yeah, right. And I think it's interesting. Those are the things that are interesting about Warzone. Even the idea of separate accounts to work. I'm sure that does happen more often than people probably realize. But I mean, I think it's a unique part of the game. You just don't know. Uh, what do you think as an active member, on Warzone and even in chat? What is something you'd like to see the active community do more of? You talked about a couple things in the clans, how some clans did really well at hosting tournaments inside of their clan, or just making sure they were proactively giving advice to their team. What are some things that maybe you would like to see even more of, whether it be one of those things or something else?
I would say it depends on how well established the clan already is. If it's a new clan starting out, my advice would be clear on what your focus is. Build your clan identity around, some narrow focus that you can get really good at or appealing at to get more players to want to hop on. A lot of the established clans you'll see, they especially the ones that can have, no cap, hundreds of members. I think the
Sure.
clan called Cats is close to 500 members, but I know a lot of those members are inactive.
Wow.
Uh, but yeah, M Hunters, um, our clan focus, we're basically one of the elite real-time clans. One of the few elite clans that actually focus on clan wars. There's there's probably, I don't know, um, roughly 10 clans that are better than us in on the competitive multi-day side in Clan League, which
Gotcha.
most people look at as the most competitive level of Warzone on a clan level.
Sure.
But yeah, to answer your question, yeah, just being clear on what your identity is, and I think the more you have to offer to a player, the more players you're going to attract.
Hmm. Yeah, no, I think that's good advice. Being clear, and I think some of the other players have echoed the same sentiments on what the clans need to do, and just leaders in the community need to do to make sure people are engaged and staying active. You mentioned clan wars, and I still think this is really interesting, and maybe a lot of more commonplace or maybe non-competitive players just aren't aware of what the scenario is and what's going on. But Clan Wars is not necessarily seen as this competitive, focused, top. It's not considered the top competitive league. Either CL or some of the other tournaments or things that are going on might be considered above that. Why do you think, that is, and why is your clan sort of made a focus to be consistently good at Clan Wars, versus CL or some of those other leagues?
Sure, I think a big reason that Clan Wars isn't seen as the most competitive scene is um, only a small minority, and not even the most skilled minority of players are the ones that focus on Clan Wars the most. And I think that is primarily because most people um, don't necessarily have the time to play a real-time game within a specific hour
Sure.
every single day. Um, yeah, right now, if you look at all the clans across the board and you look at how many people actually play every day, there's probably only enough players to fill just a few clans to actually be at like max activity of 40 players playing every day. So I think
Gotcha.
that really hurts the prestige of Clan Wars, and it's for the reasons I was given. But a lot of people really appreciate the multi-day cadence to be able to have time to focus as well as people have lives outside of Warzone, obviously, so
Sure.
they can't have their
Right.
whole schedule revolve around it every day.
Which makes, it's still interesting, right? Because I think your
Hmm.
clan being focused on clan wars, um, in some ways shows a different level of commitment to real-time game as a group versus somebody that's doing multi-day games. And I understand too, on the opposite side of that, Warzone is, I think, a big part of the community is just very casual players because it can be played in a casual way. I would say my games are even more so that way. I don't spend as much time as I used to. I probably will continue to, but I really want to focus on, the podcasts and things of that nature. But the game allows you to do that if you're playing in multi-day games versus, like you said, a real-time game. So yeah, I think
Yeah,
it
I
probably
think
this
that's
goes back to that chess setup, right? That you were
mhm.
referring to before. It's just a different competitive nature almost.
Yeah, and that's definitely one really nice thing about Warzone. It lets you play as competitive or non-competitive as you wish.
Hmm.
My previous name, Tywin Lannister, when I was playing under that username, I think I was mainly looking for the matches that were being played on the Game of Thrones maps.
Yeah.
And there's a lot of fun 3v3s being done, um, primarily real time. And yeah, that was a fun run until that last season kind of killed momentum. But hey, there's a new show starting here soon, so maybe
Yeah.
that'll pick back up again.
Yeah, I'm sure. Yeah, I think just in general, that and that was a big. I remember speaking of Game of Thrones themed games. I think one of the games that I played in under the Game of Thrones map, or one of the maps, was a really big part of what drew me into it. It was just one of these really long Diplo games, and I'm a Diplo player probably more than most that I've even interviewed. But it was a great experience, and everybody was really nice, and it was really lots of very friendly backstabbing, right?
Of course.
So I think it's a really cool part, and like you said, everybody can make it whatever it is they want it to be in Warzone. So I guess my main thought is, talking to you and even just other players, I've noticed clan wars in general, I think should be more respected for the commitment to the clans that are competing in it, and the fact that it is a different level of competitiveness, because it is real time versus, something that's over the course of a couple days. So what I guess, power to you and your clan and everything you guys are doing in clan wars, because I think there's something to be said for teams that win that regardless of what people consider as the competitive nature.
I appreciate that. And yeah, we are definitely always welcome to the challenge. I wouldn't be surprised if Mythbusters gives us a good run for our money again next season.
I'm sure. And I was going to ask you about this because, I think you and I have probably interacted the most inside of Warzone chat, along the lines of the raffle, right? And I think the raffle is something that people just maybe don't even know about. Like you said, you found it in Idle. Do you feel like it's one of the main reasons why people come across chat in the first place, or do you think it's sort of, chat in general is a good way for players to meet new people?
Uh, my attitude towards global chat, it changes depending on the day of the week. I think a good amount of people, rightfully so, view global chat as basically just the chat where all the crazies hang out. I think Rafflebot does give a good incentive for some people to stay around, but if you look at the winnings that Rafflebot gives out, they are
They're pretty minuscule.
yeah, you're essentially an unpaid intern. Um, but at times, I think you know what one of your previous podcasts with Samak, he's actually done a pretty good job of lightening up and being a very wholesome regular on the global chat. So I
Mhm.
definitely many props to him for helping clean things up. There's with any public forum, you're going to have trolls come and go, you know.
Right.
But
Of
yeah,
course.
as far as yeah, I say global chat is a decent place to meet some players. I think the Warzone Discord, public Discord, isn't as active as it used to be, but that used to be a good place to meet people. But I would say, depending on what focus you want, you can look through the various clans. I think within a given clan is where you're going to find the best community for
Mm.
what you're looking for. Whether it's real time, multi-day, being the best clan league player, being a Diplo player, idle player. There's something for everybody. Even the map makers like you had with
Yeah.
Ethan, Lionheart, and some of the other um, map makers.
Right. As a longtime player, I mean, you're coming up on 10 years here. Crazy, I'm sure. What are some tips or things that you would like to share for new players, whether it be, and maybe I should ask this specifically because I still feel like I'm pretty new in idle. What is a good strategy when you're starting on an idle map? Like if you're starting to really get into it, like what is something that you look back on like, oh, if I would have just figured this out and focused on this differently, like gathering copper or, hospitals, or what would you say is maybe a good tip you could explain?
Sure, yeah. If you're new to idle, um, it's mainly a good. The name of the game is in the name. It is mainly an idle game. I think my first run through on all the maps took me close to a year and a half. And now in the last 9 months, I think I've gone through all the levels like 7 or 8 times now since then. So your progression basically moves exponentially. Um, if you want to go beyond just using idle as a time sink and want to actually progress to be more efficient and time effective on the idle maps, I would advise to go through the forums, go through the I think Master Jay-Z has the best idle guide out there. I still refer to it from time to time.
Hmm.
It basically gives you good strategies on the artifacts, the digs, um, the the advancements to focus on upgrading stage by stage. But within a given map, um, it's not always if you're starting out, it might not be what your intuition tells you. Um, but the markets are the most important thing, followed by the hospitals, and then the technology tree within a given idle map. I think those, if you understand the strategy behind those three aspects of the idle game, it could be the difference between you taking a month or two on one of the later maps versus a few days.
Wow. So
And
so
that's just
you're
the first
saying
run.
focusing on markets
Mhm.
first.
Absolutely. I don't think it was always the case, but starting in one of the idle updates roughly a year ago, there's some keys to the markets as far as buying alloys from there and selling alloys until the price in the market equals the sales price. That basically it's basically a money printing machine if
Wow.
you everything optimized,
So optimizing it with your upgrades as you gain AP and
as well as
maximizing
the
out the market
artifacts too. Mhm.
and the artifacts. Okay.
Mhm.
Interesting. And like I said, this is all still very new to me, so really appreciate that because I knew hospitals were important, but I wouldn't say markets. I played around with them a little bit. Uh, didn't get quite to the level that you're explaining. So I'm looking forward to
Yeah,
going back in.
yep, and there's definitely a lot of tribal knowledge even in global. Yeah, surprisingly, a lot of the regulars in global chat are actually probably some of the top idol players out there.
Mm,
Not that that's that prestigious or anything, but it's definitely good to know. Yeah, I think yeah, my first year playing idol, I kind of just had the blinders on, just doing my own thing. I thought I was playing a pretty effective game until I saw the meta. I saw what the actually elite idol players were doing, and it definitely blew my mind. I think I skipped ahead too many levels to Big USA, and I think I took 2 months on that level alone. And you'll hear a similar story from almost anybody who was just playing idle at
yeah,
their own pace, so that they skipped ahead and wasted a lot more time on the map than they wish they did.
right. Yeah, no, I hear you. That's me. I'm there. I've already done it. Uh, Tell me, I always give an opportunity at some point in the interview. What is some things, especially for you as another longtime player, that you'd like to see improved for Warzone itself? Whether it be, from the game's perspective. Obviously, we just got an awesome new update with, 3D. I think that's exciting for anybody to see, something new and different, but maybe something more specific to what you'd like to see in Warzone.
Sure, yeah, I appreciate that question. Um, I really enjoy Clan Wars, but I do think there are still a lot of rooms for improvement. I think with the current player base that actually plays Clan Wars, that it should be tweaked to kind of fit that bucket of how many players are actually playing it.
Mm,
I think I think reducing the number of players I can play in a season within a given clan from 40 to something lower like 20 or even 10, I
mm,
think that would give the opportunity to a lot more clans have the opportunity to compete with M Hunters and Mythbusters
mm.
to kind of narrow that gap, which would be to M Hunter's detriment, but it would also, I think, help the community overall. Um,
Yeah, it would increase competitivity. I can't say the
mhm.
word, competitiveness, and you would have more people playing, and it would just be better for everyone in general. That's an interesting
Yes,
point.
yep. And I I love myself some real time games, but I think I don't know how how it would be implemented well, but I think there has to be some solution out there that puts in a hybrid of what we have in Clan Wars and Clan League and
Mm,
allows room for the multi-day elite players to get on the Clan Wars side, as well as to I don't know what the elite players who don't care about idle would want as a reward because at this point
right.
it's just coins, and once you have enough coins, there's not really much motivation. So I don't know if Visor could introduce some new dynamic of a reward or progression system for the Warzone Classic players to basically as a carrot to dangle for them to chase.
Yeah. Yeah, and that's definitely interesting and something that's been on my mind as time will tell. I'm getting more and more connected with the competitive community, which seems to be a pretty big part of Warzone. And obviously, I think just everybody and your insight and everybody's insight has been really, really great. So I think those points are good ones, and should be considered, if not by Fizzer, and everything he's got on his hands, but maybe by the community. What can we do to better help with that? Uh, what about the game, has really brought you back? You talked about playing for so long, and then you sort of came back. What brought you back, during the pandemic? Was it simply just, you remembered it and you wanted to come back, but like what really drew you back in?
What got my foot back in the door here? I was having cravings to play some online Risk again, just like what brought me here in the first place. But what kept me here and what um, ramped up my involvement in this game. I think Fizzer adding the idol side of things, as well as me discovering that hey, there's Clan Wars now. There's a lot more to this game than what I knew about when I played this the first go around, as well as seeing the community side of things too. It's been nice to get to know a lot of people within a lot of the clans that play within Clan Wars.
Right. Yeah, that's great. And I think, you and I are probably similar in that way. We like different aspects of Warzone. It's maybe not just one part that we want to see improvements in. We want to see improvements across the board for everybody. Like you said, having more players in clan wars might not be good for your clan, but you see the benefits in that, right? And even providing better rewards for the competitive players where you're already an idle player and you're receiving those rewards and appreciating that. So I think more people like yourself, looking not just at maybe a small part of the game, but looking at how can we make this better for everybody is only going to help everyone ultimately. So thank you for your insight and for joining me on the podcast. I really, really appreciate it. It was fun to talk about all these different subjects.
Yes, likewise. I appreciate it is very nice to have a podcaster like yourself churning out good content for the Warzone community. So I appreciate the invite and I appreciate what you do here. So thank you.
Yeah, absolutely. And thank everybody, that's listening. We couldn't do this without you. Obviously, you guys have been so nice and kind to continue listening to the podcast. So thank you for that. And we hope to see you all in the next one. Take care till then.